In this video, we're going to learn how to collect the value of a variable as an integer. You could also do very much the same sort of thing as a float, and it would work. We're going to do the simple version, and then I'm going to show you how to do it with validation. So the very simple version is, let's say that I want a number. What I'm going to do is I'm going to specify that it's an integer, and then my question is, well, where does this integer come from? I could just specify one, but I want it to come from the user. So I'm going to say it's input. And then I'm going to put the sentence that I'm going to ask. Please enter a number. There we go. Close off my talking marks. Now I'll actually need two brackets there. And that will work. So I can actually collect it that way. 15. And there would have been my number. And I'll just prove that to you. I'm just going to go down a few lines and show you that if I say print number, there we go, print number, I'll get that number back. So there you go, 12. And it's 12. Now, where this stops working is if I run this and I give it something that is not a number. So I type in some text, it will actually fail because I told it to look out for an int. Well, I'm going to build some basic validation in here. So the very first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create this boolean called valid input. And I'm going to say that it will start off being false. So it is false. And then I'm going to run a while loop. So while what? While valid input equals false. So we're testing does it equals false. And when it does, here's what we're going to do. This is the bit that's a bit different. It needs to be indented because it's part of the while loop. So I'm going to try, and then that gets its own indent. And I'm going to try getting this number as a integer. So it's going to give this a go. Now, if this fails, then I'm going to say except. Now, I'm just going to go back to the edge and tab in. So except. Now, this will be what will happen if it doesn't work. So if it doesn't work, I'm going to print on the screen, that was not a whole number. Just to give the user a little bit of feedback here. So, that was not a whole number. I'm closing my talking marks. I'm closing my brackets. And so that will happen if we're wrong. So let's give that a go. So I run it. Please enter a number. I type in nonsense, and it tells me that was not a whole number. And it asks me again. Now at the moment, it actually will keep asking me again, even if I do put in a whole number. That's because I need a condition for when it hasn't failed. Well, that's back here, and this is called else. So this is what we try, this is what happens if it produces an error, and this is what happens if it does not produce an error, if it's successful. Well, if it is successful, then I'm going to say that valid input is going to equal, no, it's not going to equal false, it's going to equal true. There we go. And we should print out and say, there's your number. In fact, I might even put in that message. So, your number is. There we go. All right, let's give that a run. So, enter a number. I put in nonsense. It tells me that it's not a whole number, and I'm stuck within that loop because nothing's happened to swap over valid input. So now I put in 12. I can now get it set valid input to true, breaks out of that loop, and I have the number that I wanted without the program breaking.